On December 15th, 2025, sophomore quarterback Dylan Raiola announced his intention to enter the NCAA transfer portal, effectively ending his time at Nebraska after just 2 seasons. This is not merely a talented player transferring in the modern era of college football. This is the catastrophic squandering of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to rebuild a proud program that has been floundering for over a decade. Nebraska football had one last real chance to turn things around, to lay a strong foundation for sustained success, and it was handed to them on a silver platter. That gift was Dylan Raiola, the son of Nebraska legend Dominic Raiola, choosing to come home despite being the consensus #1 quarterback recruit, and in some services the #1 overall prospect in the entire nation. He could have gone anywhere: Ohio State, Georgia, USC, the elite Blue Bloods. But he flipped from Georgia and committed to Nebraska. And Nebraska blew it. The once-in-a-generation gift that Nebraska fumbled. Dylan Raiola was not just a 5-star quarterback. He was the 5-star quarterback. In most recruiting cycles, there are only 1 or 2 true 5-star QBs in the entire country. Raiola wasn't just one of them. He was widely considered the best arm talent in the class, a prototype with size, accuracy, and NFL bloodlines. Landing him was an absolute miracle for a program that had endured years of mediocrity, coaching turnover, and declining relevance. This wasn't just about talent on the field. Securing the nation's top QB recruit sends a message. It attracts other high-caliber players. It shows you could develop elite talent. It sets a precedent that top prospects will be protected, coached well, and given every chance to succeed. Nebraska had 4 potential years to build the entire program around this young man. In the NIL era, quarterbacks don't have to rush to the pros. They can stay, earn significant money, and develop into even better players. All Nebraska had to do was take care of him, protect him, scheme for him, surround him with competent coaching and decent protection, and let his success recruit the next wave of talent. Instead, it did the opposite. They stifled him, exposed him, injured him, and ultimately drove him away. Raiola's performance. Proof he was everything advertised and improving. Despite the chaos around him, Dylan Raiola proved he was a legitimate star. In his true freshman season, 2024, he started immediately and looked the part early. Sharp, confident, throwing with precision. He finished with a 67.1% completion rate, 2,819 yards, and set multiple Nebraska freshman records. Yes, he had some interceptions, 13 TDs to 11 INTs, but that was understandable for a young QB thrust into a dysfunctional offense. In 2025, he took a clear step forward before injury struck. Playing behind the same woeful protection, he posted a program record 72.4% completion percentage, threw for around 2,000 yards in just 9 games, and dramatically improved his decision-making with an 18-6 TD. INT ratio, a solid 3-to-1 mark that ranks as good to strong among top college quarterbacks. Overall career at Nebraska, roughly 69% completion, 31 TDs to 17 INTs. He was getting better every week, maintaining elite accuracy under constant duress. This wasn't a bust or an overrated recruit. This was a very good college quarterback who was actively improving and could have become great with proper support. The coaching disaster, ineptitude, micromanaging, and dysfunction at every level. The root of the failure lies with head coach Matt Rhule and the entire culture he has built. Rhule is the epitome of the modern college coach caricature. Endless coach speak, nitpicking, micromanaging, false bravado, and motivational blather that says everything and nothing at once. He projects cluelessness while surrounding himself with a staff riddled with personal issues, inadequate scheming, and outright incompetence. Early on, offensive coordinator Marcus Satterfield was a disaster, known for ruining quarterbacks like Spencer Rattler in previous stops, carrying a terrible reputation both professionally and personally. Rumors of alcoholism and unprofessional behavior persisted, yet Rhule kept him in a prominent role far too long, allowing Satterfield's meddling and poor schemes to hinder Raiola's early progress. Raiola started hot in 2024, looking every bit the five-star, but as Satterfield's influence grew, the offense bogged down. Eventually, Rule demoted Satterfield and brought in Dana Holgorsen late in 2024. Holgorsen provided some stability and helped Raiola improve in 2025, but even he failed to fully adapt. The offense remained a mismatched hybrid that didn't play to Raiola's strengths. Deep progressions, perfect throws to open receivers. Quick game concepts developed too slowly from shotgun, inviting pressure. Holgorsen didn't overhaul the scheme to compensate for a clearly struggling offensive line. And that offensive line, coached by Raiola's uncle Donovan Raiola, was perhaps the biggest indictment. Donovan was retained largely to help land Dylan, yet he proved inadequate at organizing protection. The line allowed an obscene number of sacks, 54 total over 2 years, including 30 in 2025 alone. Raiola was sacked 27 times in just 9 games that year, with one game seeing a season-high 9 sacks. These weren't complex blitzes. Basic pass protection failed repeatedly. Top recruits on the line couldn't execute fundamentals consistently, a damning reflection on coaching. Rule's culture filtered down, disorganized preparation, poor scheming, and a sideline full of assistants hopping around with fake toughness while the product on the field remained mediocre. The staff prioritized loyalty and buzzwords over competence, resulting in a completely dysfunctional unit. The injury, the family exodus, and the inevitable exit. The breaking point came against USC. Constant pressure, another brutal sack, and Raiola suffered a broken fibula, ending his season. The damage was done, and the end of this debacle was near. Dylan disappeared. Younger brother Dayton decommitted. Donovan Raiola was fired. The entire Raiola family severed ties. Dylan, facing a blank slate elsewhere, decided to transfer, seeking a program that can actually protect its quarterback and contend for championships. Irreparable damage, a precedent that will haunt Nebraska for years. This isn't just losing a player, it's losing the foundation. Top recruits, especially quarterbacks, will now look at Nebraska and see failure. A top overall prospect comes in, performs well despite chaos, gets injured due to poor protection and scheming, and leaves after 2 years. Why risk that? Nebraska failed to show it can develop, protect, or maximize elite talent. In an era where success breeds more success, this sets a terrible precedent. Matt Rule proved too inept to handle this gift. He couldn't stop nitpicking, couldn't build a competent staff, couldn't scheme properly, and couldn't recognize that a head coach's job with a generational QB is to get out of the way and enable success. Instead, he created a mess that drove away the best chance Nebraska has had in decades. Nebraska football is now in a deeper hole, starting over without its franchise QB, with questions everywhere, and stuck with Rule, contract recently extended, and a dysfunctional leadership structure above him. This was the last real shot at revival under the current regime. They didn't just fail to capitalize, they actively sabotaged it through stupidity, ego, and incompetence. Nebraska's history with elite quarterbacks. Past success makes this failure even more egregious. Nebraska has a storied tradition of producing outstanding quarterbacks who delivered championships and winning seasons. Legends like Tommy Frazier and Eric Crouch won national titles, Heisman trophies, and built eras of dominance. Turner Gill was another elite signal caller from the glory days. These were top-tier talents before the modern 5-star rating system, and they thrived because the program built around them, protected them, and let them lead. Nebraska knew how to handle generational quarterback talent in the past. It produced winners, contenders, and legends. Dylan Raiola represented a rare modern chance to recapture that magic during a decade-plus of subpar seasons and coaching changes. He came in as the program was desperately trying to rebuild, offering a foundation for the next 4 years. Unlike the past greats who stayed and succeeded, Raiola was stifled, injured, and forced out. This isn't a new problem for Nebraska. It's a tragic repeat of lost opportunities, but with a talent level that echoed the championship QBs of old. The difference? Past regimes maximized their stars. This one destroyed its chance. The rot runs deep, a corrupt and clueless culture from administration to sideline. The problems at Nebraska extend far beyond Matt Rule. They permeate the entire university system. The athletic department operates with ulterior motivations, prioritizing alternative agendas over winning football. The athletic director is a rotten figure more concerned with backdoor deals and corporate conundrums than fielding a competitive team. Higher up, the university president is a corrupt, conniving fraud engaged in subversive schemes. The chancellor of the University of Nebraska-Lincoln is a terrible representative, a racist, anti-white ideologue who seems to relish the destruction of traditional Nebraska football culture. The Board of Regents, filled with true Nebraska losers, extremely stupid and complacent, oversees this mess, hiring administrators who foster incompetence and corruption. This toxic culture filters all the way down to the football program, where it manifests in Rule's coach-speak idiocy, dysfunctional staff, and poor decision-making. The entire system is a corporate, countercultural disaster that has eroded the tough, winning identity of Nebraska football. From the top administrators pushing ulterior motives to the head coach blabbering meaningless buzzwords, it's a complete mess of cluelessness, corruption, and ineptitude. No wonder a gift like Dylan Raiola couldn't survive here. Conclusion: a disaster Nebraska cannot recover from without total overhaul. Dylan Raiola's departure is more than a transfer. It's the death knell for any realistic hope of Nebraska football returning to prominence under the current leadership. The program had the top quarterback recruit in the nation, a player who lived up to the hype, improved dramatically, and could have anchored a 4-year foundation of success, nil earnings, and recruiting momentum. Instead, through a lethal combination of coaching incompetence, poor scheming, inadequate protection, family fractures, and a deeply rotten institutional culture, Nebraska not only failed to build around him, but actively drove him away after he suffered a preventable injury. Matt Rule is the poster child for this failure, a nitpicking, micromanaging, coach-speak salesman who surrounded himself with dysfunctional assistants and proved utterly incapable of maximizing a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But the blame extends upward to a corrupt administration, a clueless athletic department, and university leaders more interested in subversive agendas than winning. This was incredibly lucky. Raiola chose Nebraska on his own, and incredibly easy to get right. Protect your star, scheme for him, develop him, and watch success breed more success. Instead, Nebraska dug itself a massive hole. Top talent will now avoid Lincoln, seeing how a 5-star was mishandled, injured, and lost. The program is starting over without its cornerstone, stuck with an extended Rule contract and systemic rot from the president's office to the sidelines. Nebraska football will never recover from this Matt Rule debacle, especially the Dylan Raiola catastrophe, without drastic, sweeping changes. Firing Rule, the athletic director, the chancellor, the president, and overhauling the entire corrupt and clueless leadership structure. Anything less guarantees continued irrelevance. The gift was there. They shattered it. This is it for Nebraska football.